I got my master's degree at a university that is known for its huge Halloween festivities, which is due largely to the fact that it's considered one of the most haunted campuses in America. I didn't go to the Halloween celebration during my first year because I don't like crowds, but during my second year, one of my friends had a party, and after drinking quite a bit, we decided to walk downtown and check out the big party. The main street near the campus is shut down for a party, and it's usually packed with people. There is a barricade enforced by mounted police. Now, there are a lot of people out and about trying to scare people, so when I first saw him, I didn't think much of him. My friend and I were walking down a side street, arm in arm, when we saw a man wearing a mask. The mask was one of those uncanny valley type deals that has enough features to make you aware of it being a face, but is blank enough to be terrifying. When I saw the mask, I instinctively shuddered but regained my composure relatively quickly. I assume he saw me shudder because when we passed him, he didn't move and he made like he was going to lunge at me. I shrugged it off, but a little while later, I happened to glance over my shoulder and noticed he was following us. That was also when I noticed that he moved oddly. His legs were a little too stiff, but not in the way that implies injury or knee replacement. I'm not sure what was up. It was very subtle, but he just didn't move the way most people moved. He didn't move the way most people did. We were very close to the festivities at this point, so we assumed he was just someone playing a prank, and didn't really give it much thought. Once we got there, we got swept up into the crowd and we lost him. After we were done downtown, we went to my best friend's house, which is roughly the same distance from downtown to the party, only in the opposite direction. We sobered up, watched television, ordered pizza, and talked. Mostly forgotten about the man. When enough time had passed, and we knew that we were completely sober, my friend drove me to my car, which we had left at the party. I got in my car and started to drive home. Because of the Halloween festivities, I had to take a twisted route down a number of side streets, many of them one-way streets. About halfway home, I saw the man again. This time, he was carrying the mask in his hand, but still walking in the same way, in the same fashion, still wearing the same outfit. He passed under a street lamp, so I got a good look at his face. And probably, the creepiest thing about it was that it wasn't overtly creepy. He was no smiling man. His eyes didn't seem deranged from what I could see. Nothing about his features were particularly remarkable. Just a man in his mid-30s, which is a little odd since this is a college block party for people in their early 20s. I was 23 years old when this happened, and I felt a little old to be there, to be honest. However, when I drove past, he lunged at the car. He wasn't terribly close or anything, so it wasn't like he was trying to get in, but it was the same sort of fake "I'm messing with you" lunge from earlier, except I wasn't parked under a light, and I don't think he could see inside the car. Fortunately, I was able to just drive off as if nothing was happening. I was far enough from home that there was no chance of him seeing where I was going, and I added a few twists to my route for a good measure, and I assumed that he must have seen me in the car and mock lunge like before for a laugh. However, it didn't escape my notice that the lighting on my street was very similar to the lighting where I had seen him last, and I couldn't see the faces in the car. Whatever, maybe he was doing that to every car passing. Maybe he was drunk. It was Halloween. Were that the end of the story, I wouldn't be submitting the story today. But it wasn't. I saw him again. Every 2 weeks or so. It was always at night. I was always driving. He was always walking in the way that he does. It was always down a side street, though there were in many different parts of town. He would always mock lunge at my car. There was always insufficient lighting, and I was never ever sure if he could actually see me in the car. Other cars passed him. He did not lunge at them. This continued about once every 2 weeks from October until May. When I graduated and moved out of town, I would see him. He'd lunge. I'd drive off. I'd be nervous for about the next day, rationalize it away, and then forget about him until the next encounter again. Towards the end, I noticed that he started to follow my car for a while before giving up. I would always drive around and not go directly home, just to be sure he couldn't follow me. Between the following and the fact that I never saw him in the same neighborhood, I kind of wondered if he was trying to work out where I lived, but I dismissed the idea as absurd, since I didn't even know for sure that he knew it was me inside of the car. Our last encounter was about a week before graduation. I was on my street, about a block away from my house when I saw him, from behind, walking down the street with his usual stiff gait in the direction of my house. As I passed him, I realized he was wearing the mask again. He lunged. Without slowing down, I drove past my house and kept driving until I reached the highway. From there, I called a friend who lived on the other side of town, sobbing. I told her I need to stay in her guest house that night, and when I arrived, I told her what happened, and she let me keep my car in her garage, in the off chance that his nightly wanderings took the man to this side of town. We kept my car there until I left town, a few days after graduation. I'm not sure what the story was with the masked man, but I never want to find out. Well, I haven't been back to visit. I haven't spent the night in that town since leaving.